Dear poor people, Stephen A. Smith and Michael Eric Dyson are at it again. Apparently, Stephen A. Smith and Michael Eric Dyson, and I believe this was recorded before the conviction of 34 counts on Donald Trump, the guilty verdict of 34 counts for Donald Trump. The verdict had come down. I believe this was recorded before then. But even before that, apparently before this has happened, Stephen A. Smith and Michael Eric Dyson are finally admitting it. And what they're admitting is that Black voters are moving to Donald Trump, but I think more broadly, Black voters are moving away from the Democrat Party. To me, that's the most interesting part of that. So let's hear what they have to say.
Definitely showed declining support among Black voters going from Joe Biden to Donald Trump. And listen, this is where they are right now. Why do you believe that that's the case? First of all, do you believe it's true? And secondly, why would you believe that's the case?
Well, the math ain't mathing, as they say. There's some manipulation statistically with some of these poll numbers. However, the bottom line is there is, I think, disgruntlement among many African-American people about Joe Biden. And there seems to be a corollary attraction and to Donald Trump. He has an appeal. What is that appeal based on? Maybe, some young people say he's got swag. They think he's the kind of person who will go out here and will say what's on his mind without having it filtered through politically correct language. That's one. Number two, you listen to some of the rappers who say that they're attracted to Donald Trump, one of whom says, look, he gave out checks during COVID and the like, not understanding that those monies were released by an act of Congress, not the president, but nonetheless, they associate that with him. And then they think he's got this kind of swagger, he's got this kind of charisma because he's able to, be the kind of person that many of them ideally and fantasize about being. Tell you what's on their mind, tell you when to leave and when to come, and keep stepping. More substantively, I think some people are distraught with, President Biden over a couple issues, the Israel and, Palestinian situation, the war in Gaza. Some of them are quite upset about what they perceive to be President Biden's total capitulation to Israel and not standing enough for Palestinians. Although one must hasten to add, what do you think will happen with Donald Trump, who has been completely in favor of every action that Israel has taken versus a Joe Biden who has tried to, apply restraint or at least get Israel to apply restraint when dealing with Palestine right now. And then I think some people, in regards to their conservative values and beliefs, there's a group of African-American people who are not only culturally conservative, some of them are growingly politically conservative, and they find some of the issues that Donald Trump addresses around, say, sexuality, around gender, far more appealing to them than they would perceive liberal cultural values to do. So I think when you put
all of that, poor people, oh my God, all of that, let me translate this for you. So the question was, if you can remember, if anybody's keeping score, the question was, do you believe the polls? And if so, why? And he said all of that to say, yes. All of that was yes. Yes, I believe the polls, and here are the reasons why. My Lord. Whew, okay. And I thought I was somebody who could talk, but you know what? You might have me. I don't know. We'll see. You might have me because that was a lot to be able to say yes. And that's exactly what he said. So let's go back to my original thesis here. They are admitting it. This is an admission. And there are a lot of words being used and a lot of phrases. And I think so far I've counted about 7 different topics that were brought up, all to say that there are Black people who have a myriad of reasons, not one, not two, at least 7 so far, reasons why they are moving towards Trump. He said some of it was swag. Some of it was the disillusionment. Let's look that up. But disparaging the disparity that they're feeling between the way Joe Biden is approaching the conflict in Israel and in Gaza. That was another reason. Then they said something about the justice system, also that Black people are culturally conservative and now becoming politically conservative. Now, this is where I want to talk because this is my area. As you know, on this channel, what we talk about is behavior, and politics is only a way to understand group behavior. It's the way people behave in common and the way people behave as a part of a group. So when you're looking at politics, you're really just trying to understand group behavior as opposed to individual behavior. And that's what we talk about on this channel. We talk about behavior because the way people behave influences the outcomes that they will get. And the same is true for an individual, is true for groups, and true for how groups behave politically. And this is what I'm saying. The fact that Black people are moving towards Donald Trump, yes, that's interesting. And yes, that's significant. And yes, he may get more Black votes, particularly Black male votes, than maybe any Republican before, or certainly any modern Republican in a very long time. We might start to see the reversal of the Lyndon Baines Johnson. We'll have these bleep voting for us for the next 100 years. Well, we're almost, coming towards the end of that. So maybe we're beginning to see some of the reversal of that. But what's really, really interesting, and this is the part that they don't want to talk about. This is the part that you are not going to hear Michael Eric Dyson and you're not going to hear Stephen A. Smith address. It's not so much where Black people are moving to, where they are going to. What is interesting is where they are moving from and why. And they don't want to talk about that because they don't want to just expose any of the flaws and the vulnerabilities and the weaknesses of the Democrat Party. Because what Black people are saying is, even if I sit on the couch, I'm not voting for you. And that is a very, very adamant and interesting position that they're taking. And Democrats should want to know why they're doing that, if they in fact have any care about their Black voters and they want in all to make any kind of correction so that they can lure and woo their Black voters back. So the people who run around and say Democrats don't care nothing about Black people, the Democrats don't care anything, you're on the plantation and they don't care about you, it's looking more and more like that could be true. Because if you are hemorrhaging Black votes, and this is a solid voting base that you've had for 70, 80 years, and all of a sudden you're hemorrhaging these votes, don't you want to know why? Don't you want to know if there's something you could do to get those votes back? Don't you want to call Black people and say, hey, hello, can we talk? Is there something going on? Did I do something to offend you? We need to sit and hash this out and get this corrected. Why are the Democrats not doing that? Why are they not doing that? Okay, let's listen. Maybe they'll tell us, but I doubt it.
All that stuff together, there is, regardless of the degree of mathematical distance between the polling and the actual voting of African American people, there is some erosion of support among Democrats, and there certainly is an uptick of support for Donald Trump and the Republicans.
When you allude to mathematical deviation, educate the viewers out there, educate the listeners out there as to why we should take that seriously, because a lot of times so much is relying upon the polls. We look at the polls leading up to elections and it gives us an indication. It's not to say it's always right, but it certainly is not always wrong. And in this particular instance, no one would think that Donald Trump, 4 indictments, 91 different counts, civil lawsuits, and hundreds of millions of dollars, wouldn't even be in a position to run for re-election, let alone win it. But clearly that appears to be the case right now. So when you allude to those mathematical differences, tell me why folks shouldn't dismiss that and say, wait a minute, look at what's happening here. Look at the momentum. We've got 2 eyes. We see the momentum shifting to some degree, particularly after what you've just articulated about this current administration. Why shouldn't folks take that with the seriousness they appear to be taking that with now?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Well, even mathematically and statistically, they ain't they ain't calling like 1 million black people, y'all. They're not calling 1 million people, period, when they do these polls. It might be 200 or 300 people. And then the statistical difference could be an uptick of 6 or 7 people in either direction will give you a significant change in the polling numbers. So if you're talking, you know, and our brother Michael Harriot, who kind of explained this on Twitter, talking about 6 voters made a difference in terms of registering a difference in terms of the uptick for Republicans. Now, I understand that and I appreciate that. That's real. But at the same time, speaking enough to so many other black people and hearing from them, I think it's undeniable that there is great frustration with the Democrats and there is some appeal to Donald Trump. And as you've already indicated, here's a guy with 4 cases, probably got more. He got more cases than Pabst Blue Ribbon, as they used to say when I was a kid. He's a guy who's facing enormous consequence, potentially, for some misjudgments or criminal activities, and yet black people, a certain amounts of black people, certain segments of black people, certain slices of the voterate feels that he is the appealing candidate. They think that Joe Biden ain't on TV enough, he ain't talking enough, he's not representing his viewpoint enough. Even the people who support Joe Biden, like Plies the rapper, right, did an interesting video the other day saying, where are you at? You know, we see Donald Trump every day. He's on TV. Every day he's being talked about because he's got yet another court case or some judge, you know, imposing a fine on him or warning him against speaking. In other words, he's sucking up all of the media oxygen in the room. And the good things that Joe Biden is doing, he's tweeting about or sending in a way that doesn't get out to the broader audience. So not only are we talking about a shift in sensibility and perception among certain African-American voters being frustrated with Joe Biden for a number of reasons, there is also the fact that the messaging of Donald Trump for free, if you will, but also because of the enormous concentration of media attention upon his various flaws is keeping his name in the print. Now, that old saying that used to be, hey, ain't no bad publicity. We know there is bad publicity, but when it comes to presidential sweepstakes and this man is still in the running, that calculates, that converts, I should say, in a way that does have a net positive for him. So we have to ask African-American voters, you've got to be a bit more sophisticated about this. I think many of us are. And then some have indicated, look, black people don't come out to rallies. They don't do certain kinds of exhibitionist political if you will, consent or partisanship. What they do is just vote. In some instances, that's true. But at the same time, even among the folk that I travel this country talking to, and you do as well, there is a noticeable uptick in support for Donald Trump that we have to grapple with and take seriously.
Okay, back again. So the answer is yes. And if you want to see an expose in cowardice, is Stephen A. Smith talking about folk need to be taken as seriously. He won't even call their name. Stephen A., who is folk? Who needs to be taking it seriously? This uptick that we're seeing in the poll. Who is folk? Democrats? Is that folk? Is that he's loath to even call their name. He is a coward. Oh my God, that is amazing. Why can't you say Democrats need to take this uptick in the poll seriously? Is there some reason you can't just say that? You are boisterous. Oh my God, you about the most boisterous person on TV. You can holler and scream and articulate anything you want. And all of a sudden it comes to this subject and you hiding behind codes and innuendo, folk this and folk that. Who are these folk? Call them out. It's Democrats. And I agree. They do need to take this seriously. And poor Michael Eric Dyson, who was finished up on Black people need to be a bit more sophisticated, because the reason they are not coming into and embracing and feeling getting the warm and fuzzies for Joe Biden is because they need to be more sophisticated. And Joe Biden's messaging is too quiet. Okay, well, I will say I think Joe Biden's messaging is quiet. I think the reason the administrative's messaging is quiet is because I don't think they actually want to talk about their policies. because they certainly have enough surrogates. They've got the vice president. They certainly have a great deal of people in media who come on these shows who seem happy to be able to want to tout their policies, should they tell them what they are. So I think the administration should put us all to rest, put all of this to rest, and put everybody at ease, and just explain to us exactly what is it you've done that you're proud of, that you think was good. Please tell us what that was. And because we'd like to know, and we'd certainly like to know before November. So you get yourself a little fact sheet together, or I don't know, maybe you do a little TikTok video, or come to the View. The View would love to see you. Go to the View, do whatever it is you do, and come out here and tell us we're proud of our administration because this is what we've done and this is how we've helped the American people. Tell us what that is. But this quietness that Michael Eric Dyson speaks of, this inability for anybody to quite know exactly, particularly domestically, we can see internationally, it's a mess. Everybody can see that. And it's very sad what seems to be happening on the international front. You can almost pick your spot and it's either blowing up or looks like it's about to. And no one is comfortable with that. But even domestically, if Joe Biden feels like he has helped the American people domestically, we'd love to hear it. So, Michael, go ahead and tell Joe. I'm sure you either know him or you know some people who know him. You go ahead and tell Joe, come on out here and give us the spiel. Where is the stump speech? Let's see the stump speech. I want to see Joe on the stump. Let's put Joe out there and not eating ice cream in Delaware. Actually on the stump. Let him gather his crowds. Joe, bring your people out and you go ahead and tout your accomplishments. We want to see it.
Well, listen, it's always good and it's always beautiful to talk to you, my big bro, especially on intellectual items, because obviously you're one of the high-end intellectuals in this nation. Make no mistake about that. And we both have talked about it, and we know that recently, I got so much heat. I know a lot my team and other people don't want me to bring it up. I don't give a damn. I'm going to be who I am. And one of the things that I've religiously stated, I don't support Donald Trump. He's not getting my vote. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight was that, you know what, you're in trouble if you're a Biden supporter. If you're somebody that's planning on voting for Biden, if you're somebody that wants Biden reelected, you cannot just turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to what is transpiring before our very eyes. There are black folks in America who have turned to supporting Donald Trump. That is just a fact. And what I wonder, and I say it, it's not just because of that's a reason to be worried about him returning to the White House. It's also the fact that the level of support that Barack Obama garnered not just once, but twice, in terms of the inordinate amount of people emanating from our community willing to go to the polls. That wasn't necessarily the case with Hillary Rodham Clinton. And I certainly have no reason to believe it's going to be the case with Joe Biden in 2024. I think that there's going to be a lack of participation, meaning voters showing up to the polls to vote for him. You're going to see some that just don't show up. That's a concern I have. Is that concern legitimate in your eyes?
Absolutely. And first of all, let me speak to that. You are a man of tremendous integrity and huge authenticity, and you call it like you see it. And the truth is that there is a troubling phenomenon and trend. There is a problem here, or at least there is a trend that is noticeable that we have to be honest about. We can't stick our heads in the sand and pretend that it's not the case. That's not an endorsement. That's an analysis. I happen to be a Joe Biden supporter, but that doesn't mean I can't see what's going on. That doesn't mean I close my eyes. And you're absolutely right. We have to take this extremely seriously because, as you've so intelligently pointed out, Barack Obama had a kind of inborn and inbred charisma. He had a natural advantage. He had house money that he was playing with in a way that neither Hillary Clinton nor Joe Biden possess. And that is the radical and immediate identification of African and masses of black people with a candidate like Barack Obama. Now, arguably, Joe Biden has done more specifically for African American people in terms of the effect of the policies. The rate of unemployment is significantly lower. The fact that you've got a black vice president in office and a black woman on the Supreme Court, not only symbolically but substantively in terms of what he's done with housing and economic inequality, and also for those people who have received refunds, not refunds, who have been forgiven of their student loans. So when we look across the board, Joe Biden has arguably done even more, and yet the messaging behind that is not equally as powerful. First, because he doesn't have the inbuilt advantage of a Barack Obama, and secondly, because sometimes Democrats are loath to get out there and brag about what they're doing. You got to get out there and brag and tell the people what you're doing. You've got to announce it from your bully pulpit as he crisscrosses this nation on his campaign stops to talk about what's going on and to figure out new media, to figure out social media, to figure out the old school stuff, and make sure that you're involving the black media in your plans, which has often been a criticism levied by people within the media. So when we put all that stuff together, it is necessary at this point to warn folk, not after it's over. Well, I tell you, I did see this, but I didn't say anything. Say it now. This is the time for us to make acute analysis and serious scrutiny about what's happening. So with the purpose of, arming black people with knowledge that will allow them to vote the right way.
Okay, you heard it. Let me tell you something. This is a warning call. First of all, they finally did admit it. Again, they are admitting it. They are absolutely admitting it. We have been for months and months and months, and people were saying that it was fake, that nobody black was voting for Donald Trump. In fact, I believe even recently, Sonny Austin was on The View saying, black women are going to demand that black men vote Democrat. And I thought to myself, well, how are they going to do that? She made it sound like it was going to be a threat. You better do this or else. Or else what? Or else what? But okay. I'm going to let that go for a minute. But they are finally actually admitting it. What is happening is this, and I've been saying this for some time. The fissure that exists in the broader culture also exists within the black culture, within the black community, which means that there are the black community is splitting. This idea of this one monolithic group that all thinks the same, that all sees every issue exactly the same way. If it was true before, and I'm not sure it was, certainly the voting was, but if it was true before, it certainly is not true now. And we are seeing the beginnings. And this is why I think people like Michael Eric Dyson, longtime faithful Democrats, are becoming so concerned. And I think what he is basically doing, he's acting as the canary in the coal mine at the moment. These people are issuing warning calls, warning, warning. They are trying to warn. Wait a second, these people are escaping. They are running from the plantations in droves, and we don't have enough dogs, and we don't have enough overseers to come out and get them and bring them back. They are slipping out through the night, and what are we going to do? Well, I don't know what the Democrats are going to do. And however, I did offer that if they believe that they have done something specifically for Black people or for the American people in general, for which they are proud, and the American people should vote them back in office so that they continue, they need to come out here and tell us what it is. And for those items that Michael Eric Dyson mentioned, what was done on housing? I'm not aware of much that was done on housing. So you need to tell us what that was. What are these things, the more that Joe Biden has done instead of Barack Obama, who, according to him, had some built-in advantage because he had Black skin? That's a shame if that is true. If Barack Obama had a built-in advantage, meaning he could have been anything, but people just went and pulled the lever for him because he was Black, then that's an absolute shame. And I don't doubt that Joe Biden has done more for Black people than Barack Obama did, because I'm not sure what Barack Obama did for Black people. So he may have been doing more, but he needs to tell us what that is, because I'm not sure about housing. Student loans is unconstitutional. I think I've discussed that before and will continue to, which is why the Supreme Court had to stop him. for doing that. And he knew that before the midterm election. He came out and announced, I'm going to raise everybody's student loans. So they ran and went and vote for him, and then went to court 2 days later. And they said, oh, no, you can't do that. And he said, oh, sorry. I tried, but I couldn't. All right. Well, you fell for the okie doke. If you were one of those people who voted thinking you were going to get your loans canceled. Okay. So if those are the things that you think, you need to come out and tell us. And this is why I'm saying, I think that, you know what, why don't y'all meet? Take a break, get off MSNBC, get off CNN, get in a huddle, everybody meet, get your 5 points together and say, we need 5 things that we can come out every day and tell the American people we've done for them. Because the American people can't count on one hand what it is. So please, again, let us know. This video goes on a little longer, and I can leave the link in the description if you want to watch the rest of it. But here's the point. The point is, we have gone months and months and months without people acknowledging that there is a real shift going on in the Black community. I've been saying it, ring the bell. I'm going to get me a little schoolhouse bell and start ringing my bell, because I was ringing the bell telling people something is happening in the Black community, and many didn't want to listen. But we will see. We will see. We've got what we have to November 5th is the election. So we'll see how this goes. And for saying Black people don't want to come out to political rallies, I don't know if that's true anymore, because they sure came out in the Bronx. Maybe they don't want to come out for Democrat candidates, but they sure came out in the Bronx. So Black people, what is it? Papa got a brand new bag. Black people got a brand new bag, apparently. And we don't know what they may and may not do. But what we should do, if the Democrats have any interest in wooing Black voters and or having any kind of real relationship with Black voters, Michael Eric Dyson is right. They need to take their head out of the sand and come to them and say, hey, what is going on? Why don't you like me anymore? I don't know what people say when they break up, but it's not me, it's you. Whatever it is you say in the middle of a breakup, y'all need to come on out here and start saying it. Hey, listen, please remember to like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for visiting me on this video, and come back to my channel for my next video. I cannot wait to see you again. Bye-bye.